Welcome one and all to the ancient journey. On today's journey, the murder of Michele. But before we get started, don't forget, if you enjoy the video, please give us a like and a share. And if you're into our content, please check out the rest of the channel and subscribe. It helps grow the channel and it keeps us producing these videos. It's the quietest of towns, nestled along the Chemung River of the southern tier of New York. Corning, New York, with a long history behind it, slowly bailed itself out from a devastating flood in the 70s to become one of America's best small towns. Michele Neuratter's house is quiet as well, especially quiet one morning in August of 2017. A family friend had arrived to pick up Michele's young daughter for swim practice, and when knocking on the door, looking in to see where Michele was, he knew something was horribly wrong. The 911 caller thinks he sees Michele standing motionless on the stairs in the house. No one's answering the door. Michele is not moving. Corning police arrive at the house and learn the truth. Michele was dead, apparently from a suicide by hanging, and soon the quiet little town in New York would be bustling with activity. Michele's 14-year-old daughter, the one who was supposed to be heading to swimming practice, was nowhere to be found. A massive search began through the area, checking other homes' basements, attics, and garages for the teenage girl. And later that day, police get a phone call. It's from Michele's oldest daughter, Carrie. Carrie is almost 100 miles away, attending a university in Rochester, New York called RIT. Carrie has heard the news about her mother and can barely speak to the police. But some good news finally comes from that phone call. Carrie's youngest sister is with her, safe and sound. Just some 30 years earlier, things had started with such promise. Michele was graduating from high school and invited some friends to celebrate with her. One of those friends was a 16-year-old named Lloyd Neuratter. The two fell in love rather quickly, according to Michele's mother, and she was right. Just 2 years later, Michele and Lloyd were married. The two had 2 daughters and settled into Corning, New York to begin their lives together, and after settling in, Michele gave birth to a 3rd daughter. Michele would homeschool the children, and Lloyd worked as an engineer at a local Fortune 500 research facility. When the kids were through at school, Michele would start teaching English at a local university. The family was quickly rooting down in the small town. Daughters in ballet and swimming. Lloyd would bring the girls to their dance classes and would often stick out like a sore thumb amongst all the mothers. But Lloyd had always been attentive to the daughter, even doing their hair for recitals, and he actually became a favorite among the mothers there. He was described as quite charismatic. Even though from the outside the family seemed perfect, there was a dark side to the Neuratter family. Lloyd was domineering, bullying, and even physically abusive as a parent. Friends of the daughters recall strict military-like rules in the house, and when Lloyd snapped, the girls could be seen physically shaking in fear. And that dark side extended to Michele. Lloyd would happily turn his rage to her as well, and do it with a smile on his face. In 2007, Michele suddenly cuts all ties with her family, something they believed was Lloyd's doing. In 2008, Lloyd would leave Michele and the girls, taking a job in New Jersey. Lloyd had filed for divorce, and Michele moved herself and the girls into a new home. But Lloyd's rage was just getting going. Lloyd wanted custody of the girls. Lloyd pursued over 25 legal filings after their divorce. His goal was to harass Michele into giving up the girls, and to get out of paying child support. Michele accused Lloyd of turning the girls against her. At the courthouse, water cooler talk frequently turned to the Neuraders. The two simply would not go away. And then suddenly, just like that, Lloyd dropped his legal case against Michele for custody. Dropped isn't the exact word. He didn't show up for court. He never asked for a continuance. He just didn't do anything. It seemed like their fight was finally over, and Michele, understandably, was relieved. By this time, Carrie was about 1 year away from her graduation from RIT. Remember, in fact, that's where Carrie was with her younger sister when Michele was found. And despite Michelle's family's suspicions about him, Lloyd was nowhere near the scene either. In fact, he was at a job interview in California at the time. So there it was, a story, albeit a sad one, in a quiet little town. A single mother, with her daughters leaving the nest, had killed herself. But something was bothering the chief of police in Corning. When Michele was found, the scene was, at first glance, a suicide, but upon examination of Michelle's body, one clue didn't match up. Police had found a rope mark not on Michelle's neck, but on her chin. And there it was, clear as day, a U-shaped rope mark right around her chin. If Michele had hanged herself, that would have indicated that in the middle of the attempt, she would have had to have stopped just to reposition the rope from her chin, and that didn't make sense. And to their credit, the police don't immediately let the case go. They guess something isn't right, and they keep digging. Michele had just won a major victory when Lloyd's case for custody was ended. She had a daughter about to graduate. She wasn't in despair. She was happy. She was about to start the rest of her life, and she had no reason to end it. And police are taken aback when Lloyd's first visit from California isn't to his daughters. It's to the courthouse to have his child support payments ended due to the death of his wife. Carrie is interviewed by police and tells them the events of the night, that she was in Corning for one last night in her old bedroom before starting her last semester at IRT. Once there, Carrie tells police her mother begins arguing with her, claiming Carrie was always on her father's side during the court battles. Carrie told police she decided to leave and take her younger sister with her back to Rochester to avoid any further incident that night. Police asked Carrie if she knew where Lloyd was during this time. Carrie responded that he was in California on a job interview, but he had helped her move into her apartment the day before. Police interview Lloyd and he gives the same exact story. Lloyd had checked into a hotel near Rochester on Saturday. There are security cameras there and the footage backs up his claims, and again, police take that one extra step. They keep watching the rest of the footage. Dark, shadowy footage shows Lloyd and Carrie walking out of her car, then walking and getting into it, and leaving. The video doesn't show him returning, but on the footage, at 6:30 a.m. Sunday morning, they see Lloyd stroll across the parking lot and walk to his car. Lloyd had lied to the police. Having found the lie, police now dig for a motive, and it's one of the oldest motives out there: money. Lloyd has substantial debts and is paying out almost $6,000 a month to his ex-wife. Michele dead is worth $260,000 of life insurance money, but Michele alive is costing Lloyd over $60,000 a year. So in the fall of 2017, police wiretap Carrie's phone, hoping for more clues as to Lloyd's actions, and what they uncover chills them all to their core. Once they begin wiretapping, they realize that Lloyd is in complete control of Carrie. The police call and attempt to meet up with Carrie again, only to capture her panicked phone call to her father immediately afterwards. Lloyd asks, "What exactly did you tell them?" "I don't know," Carrie says. "Tell them I'm sorry I got a counseling appointment back in New Jersey tonight, and tell them this has been really hard on you." Carrie agrees. "Could you cry?" Lloyd asks. I might, Carrie says. God, it would be nice then if this was just over, Lloyd tells her. Carrie agrees that would be the dream. Police have their motive and their suspect and soon have results from an autopsy. A forensic pathologist confirms that Michele was murdered. The net begins to close in. Carrie is found in Syracuse, New York by state troopers. Investigators meet up with Lloyd at his office in New Jersey. It's the beginning of the end for them both. Lloyd agrees to take a lie detector test, but never shows up. Carrie, already in custody and being interrogated, starts to crack. My dad came down with me Saturday night, she tells investigators. She was at the top of the stairs, so she saw my dad come in and they started arguing. So he went upstairs and they were arguing in her room. I saw my mom, I saw her, and I just left her there. Lloyd confronts Carrie and tells her he can't keep paying her mother. He tells Carrie that she only has two options. Option one was that Lloyd, so far in debt, would end up killing himself. But he gave Carrie a second option, which was killing my mom, and I had to choose, Carrie said. So basically he was going to kill himself, or there was this way to make it so he wouldn't kill himself. He was going to put a towel in her mouth so she'd be quiet, and then put the rope around her neck and strangle her. Lloyd then snuck out of the house and into the rear of Carrie's hatchback. Now hidden, Carrie drives him and her sister back to Rochester. Lloyd is found in a parking garage in Princeton, New Jersey. He's tackled by police and taken into custody. He's charged with first-degree murder. Carrie is charged with second-degree murder for helping Lloyd. While they await trial, Carrie agrees to testify against Lloyd, and in doing so, she admits perhaps the worst details of the entire case. He opened the door, and my mom was laying on the floor, she told investigators, and he said he needed my help lifting her. We dragged her around the corner, and he tied the rope to one prong of the banister and lifted her up and threw her over the side. Just 2 weeks before trial, Lloyd pleads guilty to murdering Michele. Carrie pleads guilty to second-degree murder. Carrie only gets 1 to 3 years in prison and has been paroled as of 2020. Lloyd has been sentenced to life without parole. Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.